Good evening all. It is my great honor to introduce Dr. Eugene Fernandez, Managing Director of the consulting firm Metanoa, which provides solutions to clients by integrating strategy, culture, change and leadership. He is also Associate Program Director for Executive Corporate Programs at Melbourne Business School. Dr. Eugene Fernandez is a graduate of Australian Institute of Company Directors and a Fellow in Organizational Development at the International Management Centers Association. He has held senior roles in organizational consulting and human capital development, including roles as a company director and program director for Australia's leading business schools like Australian Graduate School of Management, Macquarie Graduate School of Management, and the Australian Institute of Management. Dr. Fernandez's strength lies in blending the latest research and theory into leadership and organizational practices. He is an expert in providing customized interventions in the facilitation and coaching of executive groups and teams, strategic capacity building, strategic and operational planning, leadership development, organizational culture, organization design and development, and change management. His clients include several global and local organizations in banking, energy, FMCG, insurance, pharmaceuticals, technology, professional services, retail, leisure, numerous government departments, and over 20 universities. We are extremely honored to have Dr. Fernandez joining us on this special occasion. Now, I welcome Dr. Eugene Fernandez and now request Dr. Fernandez to deliver his address. Thank you.
I'm hoping that you can hear me clearly. So, as I can see the audience members, would you mind raising your hands to tell me that you can hear me clearly? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. So, I am deeply honoured to be here as your chief guest for the inaugural doctoral program ceremony. Thank you, Professor Bhatnagar, and the faculty and the board of the Lal Bahadur Shastri Institute of Management, Delhi, for your generous invitation. A warm welcome to the doctoral candidates, all 13 of you, and to the students, and to the families, and to the special guests. As I bridge this virtual distance between us, I stand here grounded with my feet planted on an ancient land, Australia, a young nation resting on the bedrock of ancient wisdom, cradled in the bosom of many nation tribes. I begin this talk by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which I stand, the Bidjigal people of Kamay, otherwise known as Botany Bay. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and I thank them for their enduring stewardship of this land. For most ceremonial and important occasions in Australia, we introduce an acknowledgement to country, just as I did. It's a sign of respect, and protocol which dates back to times prior to colonisation. My address will focus on the critical theme of impactful management research. I'll talk first about the nature of organisations. This locates and contextualises the research you do. Secondly, I'll talk about the nature of the research question, and thirdly about you, the researcher, and the journey ahead. Professor Henry Mintzberg famously stated that management is a practice and not a profession or a science. It's learned largely through experience. So management then is a practice grounded in experience. My over 3 decades of work as a program director in executive education, paralleled by my board and consulting experience, I observed that managers in general, have a preference for the experiential. They learn by observing and doing. Most managers operate in a hectic, time-constrained, delivery-bound environment. They're multitaskers, problem solvers, deal makers, team builders, change champions, strategic translators, and operational efficiency experts. There are, of course, many other hats that a manager wears, and many competing needs, priorities, and expectations that they have to navigate. Given these preferences, managers tend to prefer research that has a direct and applicable link to what they do. They're not so much interested in theory, but in how that theory applies to the daily life quantities and issues they face. How does it make a difference to their practice? What impact will it have to the outputs and outcomes? Research and article summaries pique their interest rather than the article itself, I've noticed. This, though, is management's Achilles heel. For the bent on pragmatics and application, ties you to the dance floor of action. It works well in an enterprise where there are many known knowns. As Ralph Stacey's matrix, fits within the close to certainty and close to agreement. I'll just share a slide. So it fits, this is Ralph Stacey's matrix, some of you might know. Okay, it fits within the close to certainty and close to agreement segment, where structure, rules and strategy. So where structure, rules and strategy, in a sense, tie you down to what is. They can be relied on to guide decisions. I guess one could only extrapolate from past experience to predict the outcome of an action with a high degree of certainty. Past experience can be used to forecast the future. It's good science in a traditional way. As you know, organisations are also navigating in an environment that's increasingly far from certainty, where cause and effect linkages are not clear. Once established notions of objective truth are challenged, there is the blurring or disappearance of boundaries. Increasingly, there's more of an openness and tolerance for diversity and adoption of integrated, holistic, systemic and ecological perspectives. Stacey calls this large central region the zone of complexity. Others call it the edge of chaos. In the zone of complexity, the traditional management approaches are not very effective. But it's the zone of high creativity, innovation and breaking with the past to create new modes of operating. To be effective, organisations need to become what Stacey calls a complex adaptive system. Information, connection and identity becomes the lifeblood. It needs to course through the organisation, reinventing, reframing and reinvigorating individuals, teams and the enterprise. I don't have time for this, but some of you know about David Snowden's work. It's another lens that expands on the thinking and offers applicable strategies to explore and explain the context, conditions and situational strategies. I place it here more for you to note for the future, and I will move on. So research conducted in an authoritarian investigative guided by universal scientific principles are better located and embraced in an environment of high certainty and agreement. There's a rightful place for this. There's much scope and work to be done in achieving organisational and operational excellence. Managers therefore need to have a diversity of approaches to deal with the diversity of contexts. So, do you mean because of all this chaos and complexity, we can't hold anything as sacred anymore and everything's up for grabs? I heard my young daughter ask me that just today. And I actually said, no, not to that drastic level, but I do mean that it's more qualitative and nuanced. Okay? There's no one objective truth waiting to be discovered, but truth and meaning come into existence through engagement with the realities of the world. Meaning is not necessarily discovered, but also constructed and relational. So what's all this got to do with the topic at hand, impactful management research? To have impact, your research needs to have relevance and meaning to the work that managers do. It needs to factor the multiple hats that managers wear, address the complex nature of organisations and the complexity inherent in the environment. I now turn to the second point of my talk, the focus on the research and the research question. Okay. Professor Reg Revens, who was a pioneer of action learning research, draws a distinction between a puzzle and a problem. A puzzle could be defined as a perplexing question to which an answer or solution already exists. You just do not happen to have found it yet. Whereas a problem, on the other hand, has an existing solution, has no existing solution. Different people will come up with different ideas and suggestions as to how you can solve it. There'll be no right answer, but a number of possible solutions which might be equally satisfactory. Revens believed the key to improving performance lay not with experts, but with practitioners themselves. They work together on pressing issues as partners in adversity. The third one, adaptive challenge, leadership theorists Hartford and Litsky make a useful distinction between adaptive challenges and technical problems. Everyday people have problems which they do in fact have necessarily known procedures and how to solve it. We call these technical problems. There's a whole host of problems out there that are not amenable to authoritative expertise or standard op. Because they require experiments, new discoveries, and adjustments from numerous places in the organisation or community. Without learning new ways, changing attitudes, values and behaviours, people cannot make the adaptive leap necessary to thrive in the new environment. I'll sort of quote two examples here. If you or others have already tried a number of procedures and the technical fixes have failed to do the trick, this cycle of failure signals an adaptive challenge. So there's something deeper beyond the technical. The people, even you, keep turning up to the boss to fix things which don't seem to stay fixed. They're likely to be social issues that are creating a large challenge. This could signal an adaptive challenge. So in undertaking this doctorate, you'll be called on to wear, the hats, both practitioner and the researcher. But one hat is more familiar and the other you will grow into. Some of you may be coming to this doctorate with a very specific area of focus and with a specific methodology in mind. And some of you may have a broad general area of inquiry you would like to address. In my experience, give yourself the opportunity to grow into your question. It's all right to leave it fuzzy for a while. As your understanding of the research grows and your awareness about methodologies and methods expand, your research question is likely to change along with its expanded understanding. This could parallel the complex nature of work and management itself. I refer now to the third and last point of this talk about you, the researcher, and the journey ahead. I started talking about the busy nature of the manager's job and how this tends to focus them on the dance floor as opposed to the balcony. It's about 9:10 in Sydney time. Okay. So I started my I just thought, look, it tends to focus on the dance floor as opposed to the balcony. So I thought, look, we could take some well-deserved time to have a short nap in our seats. So who's willing to do that? I'm joking, of course. Okay. However, could I encourage you to participate in this short visualisation? I notice you've got fairly comfortable seats there. And so, who'd be in agreement to just go through a short visualisation with me, just a show of hands if you don't mind? I promise.
Recording in progress.
So, I started my talk by, could I encourage you to sit back in your seats? relax and sit back, I'd like you to close your eyes. We're going to go for a walk. Okay, so you can sit back, take a deep breath in. Breathe out slowly. Another deep breath in. Breathe out slowly. We're going to go for a walk. It's a beautiful walk. It's a lovely walk through the countryside. There's a pathway in the countryside and we're walking on it. It's a great day. The sun is out. It's warm, gently caressing your skin. You hear the birds in the distance. You smell the countryside, the freshness. You feel a gentle breeze brush against your skin. You're walking along the countryside. You notice something ahead in the distance. It's a beautiful day. You're still walking through the countryside. You can see the wind gradually moving the tufts of grass. You keep walking. Beautiful day. And you come across this wall. It goes all the way across and all the way up. What do you do? If I can get you to slowly open your eyes, take a deep breath in, and turning to the person next to you, just briefly tell them where you walked and what did you do with the great big brick wall. So I'll just give you a minute for that. And turn to the person next to you and just have a conversation. So, my guess is that you were probably strolling through some wonderful countryside. Just as a matter of interest, I can just see you. How many of you actually felt the wind brush up against you? Just a show of hands. Hardly any. Okay. How many of you felt the sun caress your skin? Okay. How many of you visualised the countryside you were walking through? Did any of you go back to where you walked before? What did you do with the brick wall? My guess is, you probably said, such a great day, let me sit up and lean against it. It's beautiful and sunny. And some of you might have said, look, I want to see what's on the other side. I'm going to bust my way through it. We'll get a helicopter and get it across there, and look at what's on the other side. Now, I don't know whether you have municipal councillors over there, but I certainly ran a workshop for, Parramatta City Council, which have the municipal councillors and the executives. One of them actually said, look, I wonder who gave them permission to build the wall. So I'm not sure if they actually got it, but they were cracking the joke, of course. So what's this got to do with, I suppose, leadership, management and research? So I think we need to visualise, with all our senses, within the research. Give ourselves permission to do that. Now, engage the triune brain. Engage the head, the heart and the gut. Immerse yourself in your senses. The wall, of course, is a metaphor. You'll encounter it along your journey. Play with it. Dabble, have fun. Throw the bricks in the air. Colour the bricks. Melt it. Use your imagination. Also, of course, lean on it. Enjoy the day and the sunshine. It's also emblematic, isn't it? Because we've got to imagine. And that's a beautiful Beatles song, really. And that's a sculpture. We call it Sculptures on the Sea in Sydney. It happens annually. So we need to dig a little bit deeper to look for the metaphors, the drivers, the archetypes within organisations. I'd refer to Shine's work over here. Okay. We need to, in a sense, understand the visible artefacts. As both researchers and managers in organisations. Okay, what are the symbols, the layout, the dress code, the technology, the artwork, the stuff you see around you? What are the exposed values? They're usually up on the wall. They're spoken, written. Some of it are articulated, some of it not. And what are the rules of engagement? What are the strategic plan, the mission, the vision? All these operate in the rational domain. We need to dig, like the metaphor of the wall, and look for tacit assumptions. Okay, what are the deep stories? What are the myths? What are the legends? Who are the heroes? What are the shared values and feelings? What are the archetypes that perpetuate within this organisation? And so this is definitely the domain of the non-rational. Not irrational, but non-rational. So we need, I suppose, to focus both above the green line and below the green line in organisations. For research to have an impact, it needs to cover off on both. We need the artefacts, the research journey itself, but we're hoping, that you're also plumbing deeper to understand the deeper limitations within organisations, or the deeper metaphors of success, really, or the symbols. I wanted to use, this is part of my doctoral research a long time ago, the metaphor of the door to your practice. And really within this, you've got, you'll notice there's design, operate, observe, reflect, which actually make up, it's an acronym for the door. And one of the issues in organisations is that people get caught up in the DO part, the doing part. Okay? And, with limited time for observation and reflection. Many times reflection, review is compensated for reflection, and it doesn't go as deep as reflection. In your research journey, there's certainly an opportunity here to go beyond the doing paradigm, to observe and reflect at your practice, to see it as an iterative journey, and in the end, to look at it as a double loop learning process. I'm going to end soon, but I just wanted to talk about the doing part. Right? So some of you ever come down to Australia, I personally welcome you. But there is this amazing journey around the Indian Pacific. It goes from, of course, Pacific Ocean to the Indian Ocean. And this is a train journey, one of the most remarkable train journeys that anyone can do. It goes across what we call the Nullarbor Plain. Okay, and the road, I've done the road, I haven't done the rail journey. But it's the longest stretch of railway track, approximately 478 kilometres. And the road's the longest straight road for 90 miles as well. And believe me, once you get on that road, you want to get to the other end. Okay? And it's like life itself, you're caught up, cocooned in your car, okay? Safely, embalmed in the journey. You're moving from point A to point B and you want to get to point B. Okay? And I'm caught up in the doing of it. And I get to the other side, quite a few hours later, and I might have missed something. So it's time to observe, get off the track, to observe, to look at the ancient tribes, along the way, some of the old settlements, some of the old towns, some of the rich archaeological sites. Okay? It's an opportunity here to observe and reflect, stepping off that road and stepping back on it again. So with your doctoral journey, I guess, there's an opportunity here for you to observe and reflect, and to open doorways to your practice. So if you observe and reflect, you can then design something new, you can then go and operationalise it, you can observe again, and you can reflect. And you can reflect on the content of what you're going through, you can reflect on understanding the process of what you're going through. But fundamentally, we hope you're reflecting on your own practice and how it's changed you as an individual. So that's the deep double loop part of it. So in your case, management's not a disembodied entity. Many of you are the living representation of having worked in the cut and thrust of organisations, from what I've seen in your list. Your cohort of 13 have close to 200 years of experience within a number of industries. I call on this experience and utilise the multiple perspectives and lenses this offers. The doctoral journey can be enriched through cooperation and sharing. You have this valuable opportunity to also now wear a different hat, to look down at the dance floor, at the field of action from the vantage point of the balcony. So I use the term conjointly now. As a practitioner researcher, does your research move the body of work forward? Does it make a contribution to expanding our understanding of the rich landscape in which managers work in? Is it addressing a technical problem or an adaptive challenge, or both? What impact does it have on individuals and the system? And just as importantly, how have you grown as a manager, a leader, a person? I would advise you not to see your research as a distant and disconnected process, irrespective of the methodology you adopt. The observer and the experiment are intertwined. You influence and are being influenced. Adopting a non-dual perspective, Advaita, ascribed to the philosopher Shankara, allows you to see the world as a continuum and interrelated. Also, I finally commend Gandhi's prescient statement to you: be the change you want to see in the world. Thank you.